After a whirlwind romance that felt like building a life together, my girlfriend broke up with me to focus on herself. But 3 weeks later, she moved on with a mutual friend. Now, I'm left wondering, was I just a chapter in her story, or will she ever come back? So, people, this is the backstory, but I simply wanted to inform everyone that it does improve. The relationship progressed rapidly from the very beginning. It was instantaneous. We met at a Lunar New Year festival, and the chemistry between us was astonishing. For approximately a year and a half, we practically cohabited. I spent the majority of my time at her house, and we became integral to each other's daily routines. It was not merely a relationship, it felt more like we were constructing a life together. We introduced each other to our families, went on vacations, and celebrated holidays as a pair. It seemed as though we were already on the path toward forever. After almost 2 years together, I believed we were unbreakable. We ended up going on our first date 1 week after she concluded a 2-year-long relationship. She shared with me that he had ended things with her 6 times throughout that relationship. She indicated that she had emotionally detached from her ex long before it actually ended, and that by the time she finalized it, she had already moved on emotionally. I did not think much of it then, but now, in retrospect, I wonder if this is a pattern she repeats in every relationship, detaching quickly and moving on before she even departs. Reflecting back, I think she may have carried that behavior into our relationship. Additionally, she has a large number of male friends, around 30, and not a single female friend. At that time, I was naive and considered it normal since she grew up with 3 brothers. I assumed she was just a tomboy. The first year was blissful, but things began to change. The same problems from her previous relationship started to reappear in ours. She betrayed my trust not once, not twice, but 3 times regarding the same issue. I attempted to move past it, but over time, I also betrayed her trust. That is when things began to turn toxic. I became exceedingly insecure about some of her male friends. We disrespected one another, lashed out, and everything spiraled from there. The issue was not just that we faced problems, it was that we were causing each other pain. Eventually, the long-distance nature of our relationship took a toll. We were in different cities for summer break from university, and arguments began to occur more often. One night, during a significant argument, I said something incredibly hurtful, and that became the breaking point. She initiated the breakup, and while I attempted to plead with her afterward, it was insufficient. She felt that there was too much damage between us. We ended our relationship on July 16th. I respected her decision. The initial days following the breakup were challenging, and we both struggled to let go. However, after 3 weeks of no contact, I reached my breaking point. I contacted her, expressing how much I missed her and that I still wanted to resolve things. She agreed to speak with me and conveyed that she missed my voice, my presence, and everything about me. But then she said something that altered everything. "I cannot be in a relationship with you right now. I need to concentrate on myself. I have to discover who I am outside of a relationship. I have been too reliant on you, and I need to learn to be independent. I must learn to love myself before I can be with someone again. I am uncertain if I can be in a relationship this semester or even throughout this academic year at all." She made it clear that she was not merely taking time from me, but from relationships in general. I respected this, but it hurt. I felt as though she was indicating that she needed to change for herself without me. On July 26th, 10 days later, she called me at midnight and said, "My cousins are going to hate me for this, but I basically called to tell you that I miss you." She was vulnerable, and for a moment, it felt like there might be hope. We talked for about 2 hours, and everything seemed to return to normal. However, when I inquired about it, she reiterated that she could not be in a relationship with me. "It's too soon for us," she told me. We continued to stay in contact, texting and calling occasionally, trying to give each other space. We met to return each other's belongings on August 15th. She hugged me, playfully hit my stomach, and called me a dummy just like old times. When I brought my dog over for her to see one last time, we stood outside her house at midnight, embracing for 10 minutes straight. Neither of us wanted to part ways. I felt in my heart that we were destined to resolve our issues and reunite stronger. On August 20th, she visited her cousins in another city. She posted on her spam account, "After visiting my cousins, I realized who truly has my back and who does not." Following that trip, she completely shut down. A few days later, on August 25th, she requested to talk, but specifically through text. I was naive and agreed, only to be met with, "We will never get back together. Ever." That was the end of it. She was finished, but she was still in mourning. She began to post pictures of herself crying, discussing how terrible her day had been and how things were not going well. She also seemed to be distracting herself by spending time with her childhood male friends at their apartment. She frequently hung out with them, and I simply thought she wanted to be around friends for comfort. I did not make it any easier for myself. I begged, tried to mend things, and even reached out to her brother and cousin for emotional support. But eventually, they grew weary of me. I was desperate, and they could observe that. It was troubling enough that I had to see her every day for a semester because we scheduled classes together. She felt so close yet so distant. I began attending therapy after the breakup, striving to demonstrate to her that I was willing to improve myself and address my issues. I concentrated more on mixed martial arts and even won my first fight. I aimed to prove to her that I was capable of change. However, none of it mattered. She blocked me on everything except for her Instagram spam and Spotify a day after my birthday on September 13th, leaving me confused and deeply hurt. It worsened when one of her male friends, who stayed at the 5-man apartment where she had been sleeping, informed me that she displayed the messages I was sending while pleading and laughed. It caused me to spiral downward. It shattered me. I began to drink consistently for the next 4 months. I decided to confront her after one of our lab courses. It went terribly and pushed me over the edge. I attempted suicide and had to stay in the hospital for 5 days. I am so ashamed that others know, particularly her. I am currently clean for 3 months. Avoid substances when you are hurting and healing. All they do is exacerbate your feelings and prolong recovery. Also, adhere to no contact. The less you know, the better. What stung the most was her assertion that she needed to focus on herself, to become independent, and to love herself. She told me she was not prepared for a relationship, but within weeks, she was already seeing someone new. Someone I had encountered before, a guy who was more of a mutual friend. He was a childhood friend, someone she had spent time with in the past but was not particularly close to. He was one of the males residing in the apartment she had frequently visited. When I discovered this, it hit me hard. I argued with friends and family in denial, trying to convince myself of the things she had said. I believed she was better than that. They were seen together at the mall just 3 days after my birthday, and she lied about it, saying, "We were both finished with class, and the other friends were not available, so we just wanted to do something." When I fortuitously spotted her resting her head on him at a restaurant with her other male friends and questioned her about it, she told me, "Stop monitoring me. Stop worrying about who I am spending time with." What hurt the most was her decision to keep their relationship secret for so long. I kept questioning whether she was truly intimate with this friend. I would ask my friends who followed her spam and main accounts if she ever posted pictures of them together, and they consistently replied, "No." When she eventually did post something, it was on Valentine's Day, and it was not even a proper couple's photo, just an image of their backs holding hands, with the bouquet he had made for her. I messed up and told myself I needed confirmation, so I checked her Instagram using a website, since I am blocked, and her Spotify, as that was the only platform on which I was not blocked. I discovered that she still had photos of us in her highlights, and she still adds to and listens to the breakup playlist she created after our initial separation. She continues to listen to our songs. I am utterly confused. But the real blow came when she grew distant and withdrew from me, claiming she needed time for herself and that we would never reconcile. Simultaneously, she was moving on with him, and everything about how she handled it seemed secretive, as if she wanted to hide the truth from me. It appeared that she did not want anyone to know the truth, as even her close friends were unaware. She has always been so open and willing to showcase her partner on social media, yet this situation feels entirely different. All the images in her highlights that feature him are in group settings. There is never any displayed intimacy. It simply appears as though he is just another one of her male friends. Even when she shared that Valentine's Day post, it only showed their backs while holding hands. I feel so strange and bewildered. Although I recognize that it is over, there remains a part of me that wishes she would at least reach out and apologize. She is living her life, while I remain somewhat consumed by my emotions, still attempting to determine what went wrong. She repeatedly asserted that she needed time alone to focus on herself, and then promptly entered into another relationship. It felt as though I was never genuinely part of her journey at all. I am doing much better now. I have been adhering to no contact to maintain my peace. I started working out more, concentrating more on my studies, and even making new friends. I deleted all of my social media accounts and will likely keep them deleted until I am fully healed. Nonetheless, I cannot deny that she made me feel like I was merely a stepping stone, a chapter in her life that she had closed without ever truly comprehending it. I still feel unworthy and replaceable. It has been 7 months since the breakup, and I am still somewhat stuck trying to process everything. Even after all of this, I recently learned that she inquired about me through a mutual friend. She asked how I was doing and whether I was okay. I am so confused. Throughout the past 7 months, she has never followed up with me, asked about me, or even acknowledged my presence during the semester we shared classes. I feel like I am gradually regressing again, and I am perplexed. What could this signify? Is she potentially regretting the rebound relationship she is in? I know people often say, they always come back, but I am uncertain if she ever will. I am so bewildered. Can someone possibly provide me with any clarity? Story 2. 2 years in, my girlfriend's jealousy over my social media feels suffocating. Despite her sweetness, my emotional connection is fading. How can I share my struggles without hurting her feelings? I do not have anyone to discuss this with, so I am turning to random online strangers. I have been with my girlfriend for approximately 2 years, and although our relationship began on rocky ground, things have started to stabilize and become healthier. When we initiated our relationship, I had not yet cleaned up my social media from my time as a single man, which led to her discovering my adult content follows and likes. This resulted in a significant argument. I understood her boundary. It is entirely reasonable for a boyfriend to maintain a clean social media presence. However, I took issue with the name-calling, insults, and holding me accountable for a boundary that she had not previously communicated. I also felt that the expectations were not clearly articulated and were, at times, unfair. I discovered later that I had to be extremely cautious about following pages or being part of groups related to anime, movies, television shows, or video games. If these pages posted anything that could be deemed male gaze-oriented regarding a woman or a female character, especially adult content, I would be held accountable as if I were committing an act of infidelity. Anything that included material rated PG-13 or above depicting a woman, whether fictional or real, was strictly prohibited unless we were together. If I watched a YouTube video featuring a female content creator, I was accused of being sexually attracted to her, even if the video was about a game we both enjoyed. Engaging in a game that featured an attractive female character was unacceptable unless I obtained her approval in advance to alleviate her anxiety. Reacting to a meme from a female friend, even if I liked it, was treated as if I were soliciting attention. I also initially resisted her request to block or remove some of my online friends involved in modeling or adult content creation early in our relationship. I felt that severing ties, even with casual or online friends, set a troubling precedent in a relationship. However, I eventually came to understand her perspective, complied with her request, and apologized for my stubbornness. Each individual occurrence was viewed as a breach of trust. When I sought clarification on what was acceptable, she accused me of feigning ignorance. I apologize if I really am just oblivious. I eventually realized that the only way to ensure I was respecting her boundaries was to refrain from acknowledging any woman unless my girlfriend was present, except in the case of a non-sexualized or non-conventionally attractive fictional character, in which scenario a half-hearted acknowledgement was permitted. She would insist on inspecting my phone to review my browsing history, Reddit activity, Google history, and messages to ensure I was not engaging in inappropriate behavior behind her back. When I expressed my unhappiness with being frequently mistrusted by someone I loved, I was informed that I was facing the repercussions of my actions, and she would enumerate everything I had done wrong, all the breaches of trust that made her feel unloved or unworthy. Sometimes, she would begin doing this whenever something triggered her insecurities, rehashing all my past mistakes over the last 2 years as if they were fresh wounds. She described this as her healing process to overcome my previous actions. She did not find anything in her searches because there was nothing to discover. Often, she had just stumbled upon some method of concealing one's online activity from a relationship account on TikTok and became concerned that I was successfully hiding something from her. I am not without fault. There was significantly more I could have communicated and done to reassure her in our relationship. I should have been more proactive in clearing my social media presence, much more thorough in the early stages. I have always struggled with verbally expressing my feelings, whether they are positive or negative, and her primary love language seems to be words of affirmation. I occasionally have difficulty anticipating her needs. I struggle with being decisive and often sound hesitant when asked important questions. In her defense, she is usually very kind. She offers many hugs, kisses, laughs, does many thoughtful things for me, buys me gifts, and boosts my self-esteem. We have experienced a lot of exciting adventures together and created many wonderful memories. However, she gets caught up in her thoughts about this one issue and lashes out due to past trauma and previous boyfriends who treated her poorly and cheated on her. Nonetheless, she has been working on her insecurities by watching more adult-oriented shows with me or playing games that contain nudity, such as Baldur's Gate 3. Those sessions often have to be cut short if there is excessive nudity, and I cannot choose any flirtatious dialogue options while playing, but I appreciate the effort she is making. She frequently shares TikTok videos with me from other women, and even some men discussing how desiring other women while in a relationship is wrong and unacceptable. This includes the likes and follows on social media. It makes me feel somewhat uncomfortable, as if it is an accusation, a reminder, or an affirmation that anyone else would have reacted similarly or worse. Perhaps she wants to hear that I share the sentiments of those in the videos, but I am uncertain whether having a fondness for e-girls in a relationship is entirely comparable to what she has been upset with me for. Is this normal? Is she justified in her feelings? I am no longer certain. To be honest, all this has diminished my ability to connect with her emotionally. Recently, after an argument, she attempted to engage in intimate conversation with me, but I just felt nauseous and anxious. She discussed trying new kinks with me, but I felt repulsed by the mere thought of sexual intimacy. She mentions that I am her safe space, that she feels relaxed around me, and hopes to be the same for me. I do not share that feeling. I cannot. I cannot discuss the television show I enjoy because it contains too many sexual scenes. I cannot talk about the game I am fond of. Too many inappropriate individuals play it, and I will not be able to convince her of its merits beyond its more risque elements. I cannot share this humorous video with her because the creator resembles my ex-girlfriend too closely. The jokes I make cannot be too suggestive or too offensive. I may be overly sensitive and taking unnecessary precautions, but if I relax, there is a significant chance I will do something wrong again and initiate another fight. I feel that discussing my feelings will only lead to conflict. I fear I will lose my best friend for good. I believe I will either be told that I have no right to feel this way due to my past actions or break her heart. She needs my emotional support now more than ever. I should be content in this relationship, should I not? She does so much for me and works so hard for my sake. So why do I feel so isolated? I do not know how to express this to her. I do not know how to bring it up without sounding like an ungrateful person. Perhaps I am simply not suited for a committed relationship or for having a family. If this is how challenging things are for me now, how could I ever cope with the additional responsibilities of marriage or children? I want to understand how I can communicate my feelings in a manner that does not invalidate her insecurities or make her feel as though I am placing all the blame on her. I also do not want to present a problem without offering a solution. Do you have any suggestions on how I can address this sensitive topic? In summary, I feel as though my girlfriend's episodes of jealousy, although warranted, have affected my ability to feel intimate or comfortable with her. I wish to overcome these feelings and help her feel secure in our relationship, but I am concerned that discussing my feelings without a solution in mind will cause her to feel that her efforts are unappreciated or that I am suddenly looking to end the relationship. You have any suggestions? Story 3. Struggling with social anxiety and depression, I found my life spiraling during my medical internship in a rural town. Alone without my support system and off my meds, I faced panic attacks and despair. Can I finally ask for the help I desperately need? I have always identified as an introvert. Making friends has never felt necessary to me. I have been content being by myself most of the time, and sometimes being around the few individuals with whom I had some form of relationship, and those connections were quite personal. It was somewhat challenging because a few of these individuals would enter my life, become a supportive pillar, and then, one day, something would occur. They would grow tired of me, move away, or something similar, leaving my life in chaos for a while. Nevertheless, I was generally fine living this way. However, I experienced bullying from ages 6 to 14, which led to the development of social anxiety, although at the time, I was unaware that this was the cause. I still had a handful of close friends who remained supportive, which was incredibly comforting. Yet, every social interaction beyond that resulted in me being laughed at, ridiculed, or misunderstood in some way. I would say something, and people would perceive it as rude or sarcastic, or my jokes would be taken as serious remarks, even when I was merely trying to reflect the behavior of the other person. Again, I had my close friends, which allowed me to spend whatever social time was necessary to fulfill my needs. Then, I entered medical school, which disrupted my routines. My supportive individuals were no longer present, my classmates were unwelcoming, and I began to feel the impact of my social anxiety. I gradually became more isolated from those around me, began experiencing difficulties, and reached a point where I would not speak unless the professor addressed me directly. I consulted a psychiatrist and was diagnosed with major depressive disorder, social anxiety, and inattentive attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, which I had suspected for years, but no one in my family believed me. I initiated medication for my depression and attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, but I was not consistent with the treatment. I did manage to get adopted by a group of my classmates, and things were relatively okay for a couple of years. Then my internship year arrived, and I was fortunate that the other 5 individuals in my rotation were friendly and extroverted. I encountered some challenges because they did not fully understand what I was experiencing, but overall it was acceptable. They still text me occasionally. However, I am now in my service year, which is required for obtaining our license in Mexico. I am in a rural town with little beyond houses, corner shops, and fields. The nearest city is a half-hour away by car, and it is 5 hours from my hometown. I foolishly believed I could manage this on my own without my medication. A very poor choice. I am expected to perform numerous tasks beyond seeing patients, such as giving presentations to promote healthcare awareness, creating posters to display in the community, encouraging healthy individuals to get tested for chronic diseases like diabetes, hypertension, dyslipidemia, etc., and reporting all findings back to the health jurisdiction. However, I am struggling. I have been unable to communicate properly with people outside of their appointments. I can barely get out of bed in the mornings. The situation has deteriorated to the point where I can hardly converse with cashiers or my coworkers. It was difficult before, but ever since the administrators pointed out that I have made mistakes in my notes, my condition has worsened. I had established a routine that was beneficial. I was eating healthily, exercising, showering daily, eating regularly, and staying hydrated. While it wasn't entirely effective, I felt significantly more at ease with my routine. After the administrator's visit, that too fell apart. I spent all my afternoons immobilized and unable to do anything. I showered only twice a week. In 5 days, I lost about 3 kilograms and then regained them, and for about a week, I didn't even buy food because I was experiencing suicidal thoughts, and I was genuinely frightened that I might drive my car off a cliff on my way to the automated teller machine since they do not accept card payments here. I have been here for 6 months. I have not been able to ask for help until last Friday. I feel ashamed to request assistance. I believe I do not deserve help, which has exacerbated my situation. Once, I had to make a house call to a patient, but I had to turn around because I suffered a panic attack. I am already in therapy again, although it hasn't been very helpful, and I have an appointment with a psychiatrist this Friday. However, I still felt the need to express this today, especially after I experienced a panic attack an hour ago. I felt like I would explode if I did not share it.